I'm not surprised by this in the sense that it's just, it adds pressure, and it's not even realistic pressure, is it? Because of all these stupid filters and everything that everybody uses. How do we even begin to combat it?
Exactly, and I think especially for children and young people, that's where it's the most harmful, because you see a snapshot of a second in someone's life, and you know, you're scrolling on Instagram, Twitter, and all those other social media platforms, and you see that, and you think, why is my life not like this person's life? And then it leaves you to sort of kind of compare and contrast between the two, and it's almost like having to put yourself in check that what you're seeing online isn't the reality of the everyday world.
No.
And I think especially for children and young people using these platforms, that's where the damage can do the most harm.
I mean, we're all competing. It's not just children, but I think it's more concerning for children. But we're all competing to be something which nobody is, which doesn't exist anywhere.
Yes, exactly. And for example, one of my very close friends, she was, you know, she uses social media quite a bit, and she actually developed a very severe eating disorder because and she said to me that social media consumption was a large part of that. Especially, you've got some of the accounts they promote sort of pro attitudes towards mental health, and some content they're sharing, like for example, calorie counting, and it can become very addictive, especially to people who are in a more vulnerable state. And then this led to her being hospitalised a few times. And I think with social media, that's the real damage that can be done, especially for young people exposed to that kind of content.
I mean, some of the figures in this report are suggesting that, I can't remember what the percentage is off the top of my head, but some of the younger age children, a high percentage, feeling embarrassed about their body, embarrassed running about the house naked or whatever, which is what children should be doing, frankly, and not giving a care about what they look like, not giving it a second thought.
And especially on TikTok, that's one example. There's this family that I've been seeing called the Saccone Jolies. They have a 6-year-old child who was Eduardo, and because of social media, Eduardo became Edie and started to identify as a girl aged 6 years old, and the family were very encouraging about this. And the child said that looking at social media and seeing other children doing the same thing was what inspired him to then transition to become a girl and identify as a girl. And I think especially for children who are seeing this content, a lot of these things then become normalised, and then that's why especially like LGBT and the gender identification, that's become on the rise, especially in the last few years with social media.
But there's nothing, I mean, on that issue, there's nothing wrong with young people exploring who they are, is there? I mean, if Edie identifies as a girl for 6 months, 12 months, 18, and then for whatever reason thinks, oh, this isn't actually what I want to be, and goes back to being Eduardo, that in itself doesn't matter, does it?
I absolutely disagree, because I think children who are seeing this content, or young people potentially in a vulnerable state, they may see this content, and if they are in this vulnerable state, they may feel like that they identify the same way. There are many studies that with other people who have made even the full transition, either by, actually changing their anatomy, they've actually then gone back to reverse that because they've regretted it later in life. And I think especially for children, that's content that they shouldn't be exposed to because they're too young. And when they grow up, that's something that they should explore on their own, rather than being exposed to on social media and having it rammed down their throats.